Hi and welcome to A Window to the North. My name is Sarah. In last week's video, I talked about 7 ways of moving abroad, 7 ideas of how you could fulfill your dream of living abroad, either temporarily or permanently. If that is something that interests you, check out this video. And today I want to take a closer look at one of these options, which is to move abroad for work. Generally, moving abroad for work has a lot of benefits. Number one, you get, international experience, which is great on your resume. And of course, you get to be paid to be abroad. So, it's easier to finance your stay abroad. And number 3, you get to experience or be part of the social system, security system of that country, and thereby, of course, experience at least part of those benefits. So in the case of Sweden, that, for example, would mean healthcare. Healthcare is almost completely free in Sweden. And another fantastic benefit of working particularly in Sweden is, for example, the labor rights. Sweden has really good labor rights. Work-life balance in Sweden is fantastic. This means, for example, that Swedish employees have a guaranteed amount of 5 weeks of holidays of paid holidays each year, which most of them actually consecutively take during the summer. So the majority of Swedish employees are off during the summer month of July for 5 weeks. I know, mind-blowing, isn't it? But let's move away from Sweden for the moment and just consider how you could generally find employment abroad. And here I have 3 tips with you. Number 1 is to be headhunted. So depending on what kind of industry you work in, what your professional background is, it is not uncommon for companies that have a shortage of a certain profession in their own country to employ headhunters to find these talents abroad. I used to, for example, work in London for a while, and as you might know, London is a huge financial hub, and a lot of foreigners that used to work in London when I was there were actually headhunted to work for the big credit institutions that are situated there. Another example would be if you have an IT background, for example, here in Sweden, that is something that is oftentimes looked for at headhunted abroad, people with different IT skills. Now, I am not I don't know that much about IT, so I can't go into the details of the specific job descriptions, but generally that is something that is headhunted from abroad. Number 2 is to apply directly to a company. So it is not uncommon actually to just go to a platform where companies can, put out job descriptions and apply directly to them. 2 that come to mind for me here would be number 1, LinkedIn. I mean, LinkedIn is basically a gold mine when it comes to finding interesting companies, getting to know them a bit, connecting with them, getting into touch with them. And oftentimes these companies will have job descriptions either on their website, or LinkedIn has a job search tool that you can, use to search by job title, by country, by location, by level of experience, and so much more. Or there are some big platforms, for example, monster.com, that have platforms in different countries. Then you just would exchange the .com for whatever the last letters of that country are. So for Sweden, that, for example, would be monster.se. For the UK, that would be monster.uk.co, and so forth. Furthermore, there are specific platforms to each country that advertise for jobs. Of course, here you would most likely have to speak the language to find your way around. They are less frequently translated into English. So we have 1 tip left, and after that tip, I will give you some pointers of what you really need to consider when moving abroad on a work visa or, on a work residency. And there are some things that you really, really should keep in mind when it comes to this process. But before we do that, why don't you just drop me a comment down below of have you already worked abroad? Is that something that you are interested in? And if so, in which industry? Also, please consider giving this video a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel, or connect with me on Instagram, or, check out the blog. So last but not least, 3rd tip of moving abroad, and a really good one, is to check the labor shortage list. The labor shortage list is, many countries have one. Sweden has one. I know of Australia, Canada. Many countries have a list of professions that are hard to find in that country. And so they have this list. And if you are somebody that holds a qualification in one of those professions, you are more likely to get a visa to come to the country and fill that gap, that vacancy gap. In Sweden, for example, professions that are looked for, amongst others at the moment, are midwives, nurses, teachers, pharmacists, carpenters, but there's a lot of other professions as well. And this, I know that this, but this differs, of course, a little from country to country. I remember back in the day, straight out of school, I mean, this is, you know, over a decade ago, that I knew a couple of girls in Germany that had trained to become nurses, and that had moved to Canada, Australia and Sweden because those three countries had nurse on the labor shortage list and were paying a lot better than what Germany paid nurses at that time, and probably still does. As I promised, there are some things that you should consider when you move abroad on a visa for employment. Number one is that your employer is your sponsor. So that means that your visa or your work permit is tied to that employer, which means that you can't just go and usually you can't just go and find employment somewhere else, but your stay in that country is tied to that employer who pays for you. In Sweden, for example, it is the case that you will get a residence permit for 2 years and then have a chance to reapply for another residence permit for up to 2 years. And after that, you can apply for permanent residency, which then would free you to search employment somewhere else. Alternatively, of course, if you want to leave your employer but do not want to leave the country, you could find a new job, but then that employer would have to become your new sponsor. Another tip that is connected with that tip is that if you want to renew your residence permit, you usually have to prove that, you know, everything was according to the law with your first residency permit. So you usually have to prove that, you know, you paid taxes the entire time that you were in that employment, that you were correctly insured, and so forth. So whatever you have when it comes to paperwork, it is really important that you save that stuff so that should you decide to reapply for a work permit, that you can show all of these things to the migration agency. And last but not least, it is oftentimes so that employers who employ foreign workers need to prove that they have first tried to fill this vacancy with, you know, the local labor pool, or in a country within the EU, that would mean with the EU worker pool, before offering this position to somebody from outside the EU. So that would mean that they would have to go through some steps, like, you know, first for a certain amount of time offering the position on the local market, then maybe opening it up to the EU, offering it with the EU, and first then being able to, after they have done that and can prove that, being able to offer it to people from outside the EU or from outside their country. So that is something that you need to keep in mind to be sure that, you know, once you have agreed to employment and, you know, you're moving on to the process of getting a work visa or residency, that you don't run into obstacles there. I hope you enjoyed that video. Please give it a thumbs up, as I said, subscribe below, and I'll see you next week.